Alexi Alchemy here to do your weekly card pull. Today I am going to be using the Sacred Creators Oracle deck. If you've never done a card pull with me before, I recommend paying attention to your big three, which is your sun, your moon, and your rising. Also, I do these readings every single week free of charge, so make sure that you press the subscribe button and tap the notification bell. And if you would like to leave a donation, there is information below on how to do that. So we're going to start out with Aries, and the card I pulled for Aries was in reverse. This card's primary message for you is to find your sacred flow. So anyone who has Aries placements in their big three, whether it's Aries, sun, moon, or rising, my encouragement for you this week is to get comfortable with doing things in your own unique way. Like if there is a template or a booklet or you're wondering, oh, should I follow their method? Should I follow their blah, blah, blah? Right now, do things that light you up and make you feel alive without sacrificing yourself for what everyone else is expecting or what everyone else is doing. Main message with this card, stop copying other people's style, stop copying other people's steps, and give it a go with doing it your way. Especially if you're feeling like there's a specific way that you would like to do things that maybe is unconventional or just in general not the common way of doing things. Your encouragement, my dear Aries, is to just do it your own way. Aries energy is very much an entrepreneurial spring type, starting new things kind of an energy. So part of this may actually feel very natural for you. I think a lot of what's going to be coming up for you this week might be the challenge of giving yourself permission to tap into that energy. A good way to guide your way of thinking is to start thinking about the activities that you get lost in the actions of, that you get lost in what's known as a flow state. If you're not familiar with the work of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I highly recommend that you check him out. But basically the flow state is this point in which you're able to be focused and concentrated on something but not obsessively thinking about it. It's almost like you're naturally doing, you're naturally moving. A lot of the times this can happen with sports, puzzles, arts. The flow state, at least in my experience, is the perfect mesh of intuition and emotion, as well as critical thinking skills and using your mind. So this card, in saying to find your sacred flow, is an encouragement for you, if you don't already know what that is, to start exploring that. And anything that lights your soul up, anything that gives you a sense of livelihood and it makes you feel alive, that's generally speaking a good place to at least start your exploration. So my dear Aries, take some time out, ask yourself some questions, very deep questions about what it is that actually sets your soul on fire and what it is that you feel comes naturally to you, but also is something that you can push yourself in, and start moving into that direction that encourages you and your own growth along your own path, regardless of what everyone else wants from you or expects from you. Final message with this card, do not subscribe to a methodology of martyrdom. Do not give everything about yourself away. Do not sacrifice the things that you love or the things that make you feel alive for the sake of other people or the quote-unquote greater good, because those things will inherently show you where your actual gifts lie if you don't already know them. So my lovely Aries, do things in your way, do it the unique way. It doesn't matter who's watching, it doesn't matter what their opinion is. What matters is your experience and the way that it's going to cause you to grow. The next card I pulled for my dear Taurus, suns, moons, and risings, I pulled for you the card that encourages you to befriend the word polarize. I love this card because it's an acknowledgement of the importance of having differences. This can apply on a micro level or on a macro level. But odds are whenever this card comes up, there is something, whether it's a viewpoint, a way of doing things, your creative expression, something that might be potentially controversial. And again, the word polarize is probably coming through very strongly with this. Dear Taurus, your encouragement for this week is to be willing to share your own ideas, even if, and in fact, especially if they may polarize others. There is a lot of power in collaboration, cooperation, working together, agreeing on things, but there's also a lot of power in polarity, light and dark, good and bad, high and low. This is a very natural part of life, so at some point you are going to come across people, cultures, or even just aspects of certain areas of life that disagree with the way that you think. Especially when it comes to work, something that came through really strongly with this card is that great leaders are typically not people who are always taking the safe route. They're not usually the ones that are doing the same cookie cutter routine. They are not selling safe everyday ideas. They're open to doing things drastically differently. They're open to trying out something new, and those new things, those new ideas may cause a little bit of uproar with other people. And of course, I'm not advising you to go and be reckless and piss off as many people as possible, but there is a certain level of being willing to upset or confuse or even just cause other people to take a step back and view things from a different vantage point that I think you might want to access a little bit this week. A big encouragement, and I have a weird feeling that for someone this might actually apply in a social media setting, this is a really good time to pull in those people and cultivate those relationships with people who actually want to hear what you have to say and love to hear what you have to say. And in order to do that, again, the nature of polarity is it's going to really deeply attract some people, even though it will also repel some people. But the benefit of pulling in the people that it does attract is that it will touch them in a very deep and honest way. So if you have been gun shy about sharing a certain side of yourself, a certain philosophy, for you this week, my Taurus, and I know this can be potentially a little bit aggravating because a lot of Taurus energy likes to be very stable and very consistent, and this may feel maybe a little bit out of character for you, so give yourself some grace if that is the case. But overall this week, there's definitely a huge challenge for you right now to avoid appealing to the tastes of the masses and instead focus solely on the people that are gonna love what you have to say, even if some people just don't. I also like to note with this card, you can see that there's a circle with 2 arrows going in opposing directions. And again, this is just a different aspect of life that some people are uncomfortable with, which is the existence of differences, the existence of 2 opposing forces. Do not take it personally if people disagree with you, and also give them the space to not take it personally if you disagree with them. And if they do take it personally, guess what? That is not your lesson to learn, that's probably theirs. So of course, be respectful in the way that you are presenting things, but overall, right now, if there are things that you've been wanting to say and you've just been afraid of displeasing a large majority of people, but that is at the expense of those who will really benefit from what you have to say, I'm encouraging you to share what that is. And if you do, please tag me in it because I would love to know what that message is. All right, moving into Gemini, my lovely Gemini sun, moon, and rising. I pulled for you in reverse the card that acknowledges the importance of your soul on fire. So, soul on fire. In its most positive iteration, this card comes up when there is a level of focus on your passions and focus on the things that are lighting you up. Having been pulled in reverse, it's possible that there are things that light you up in this world that either you don't know about or you have forgotten or tapped out of that might benefit you to tap into. My Geminis, this week you might really benefit from putting some energy into finding the things that light you up. If you are in a bout of seasonal depression or working through things that are a little bit more challenging on the mental health front, one activity that you could do just to start to get your wheels turning and figuring out how you want to approach the situation is to identify what are the things that bring you a sense of joy and excitement. And if there's nothing now, then think back to when you were a child or even when you were a teenager. As an example, for me, I loved doing art when I was a kid. So knowing that there's something in the way of being creative or some kind of artistic expression, that's really exciting for me even as an adult. Try to identify what is the quote unquote adult version of that, and is that something that you can tap into this week to bring a little bit more fire into your life. There's also a phrase that caught my attention with this, and the phrase was fearlessly pursue that which sets your soul on fire. And that's like a really fucking big energy. Like if you think about the energy of someone who is in a fearless pursuit of something that really just lights them up, that's a level of passion that cannot be tamed very easily. And right now, my sweet Geminis, you are being encouraged to tap into those things. If you feel like you've had sort of a loss of faith or maybe a level of unworthiness of experiencing life's joys, one of the things that I love about this card is the acknowledgement that oftentimes really extraordinary experiences are actually molded out of very everyday things. Like some of the most special moments of my life, and I'm sure some of you can attest this as well, are things that really weren't that huge or immaculate. Being able to allow yourself to receive these small miracles along the way and along the journey, and acknowledging that like these things that set our souls on fire, oftentimes it's not about the outcome so much as it is about the process. If there's something that you want to do with your life that you feel very passionately about, it's likely that it's not just the outcome that's going to excite you, like the whole process of getting there is going to be something that lights you up in some way. And if you don't have something like that in your life, again, I would encourage you to explore where you might be able or how you might be able to find something like that. In this process, you'll be able to teach yourself of the importance of processes and finding success along the way to success in its most traditional form. So whatever it is that you are wanting to achieve, my dear Geminis, focusing on what it is that's going to give you joy, not only as a finished product, but also within the process, is a good place to lead from. Moving on to Cancer. Cancer suns, moons, and risings. I love that I pulled this card for you. I pulled the card of Creator Air, and Cancer energy is it's a water sign. It's very watery, it's very emotional. You may be able to attest to this in your own experience, but sometimes it can be overwhelmingly so. And the purpose of the energy of air, whether it's air signs or air in general, is an encouragement to tap into your rational mind. So, knowing what I know about Cancer energy, and also what I know of this card and when it has come up for me in my own experiences, it's possible that you're a little bit stuck in the emotional realm of things, if you will. And right now, a question I would encourage you to ask is, how is my logical, rational mind working in this matter? This is where I think it's really important to strike a balance of emotion versus logic, because if you rely solely on logic, it's gonna be just too much thinking. But if you rely solely on emotion, then sometimes you're not able to see things from a clear perspective. So whatever it is that your brain's doing, asking how it's supporting you, and if it's not, how it can. I also have a feeling if you are in a position where you are maybe thinking too much, or you're overthinking and you're not giving your emotions enough space to exist, the level of like gentle forgiveness and loving compassion that you might want to bring towards your brain or your rational mind and say like, thank you for trying to support me. I see and acknowledge what you're doing. You're trying to think my way into a situation that is healing for me, and basically just giving your mind permission to kind of not take the entire situation under its control. A few final pieces of advice whenever this card comes up is to start interacting literally with the element of air. So this can look a bunch of different ways. One of the ways to me that speaks the most strongly is doing something outside where you get some natural air. Something about connecting with that energy could actually be very freeing for you. For what it's worth, for me, one of the most refreshing things on this planet is being in an area with cold, brisk mornings, waking up and just feeling that cold air on my face. And if that's something that you have access to, or maybe could take like a little drive to, somewhere where you can have exposure to that crisp, cool air, or alternatively to the type of air that you like to be in. Like I also really love warm, humid air. It kind of feels like a hug from the world. So whichever air type really speaks to you and makes you feel most comfortable and most at home, being very intentional with connecting with that this week could be helpful for you. Maybe taking a walk during your 10 or during your lunch break or something, doing whatever you can possible to get a little bit more exposure to the outdoor world. And with that, I will move on to the next one. My lovely Leo, sun, moon, and rising. Your encouragement for this week is to acknowledge that one step ahead is all that you need. The main message with this card is perseverance, forward movement, namely forward movement at a contained and doable pace. This card is the epitome of 1% better every day. Not 10% better, not 100% better, just 1% better every day. A quote that I heard recently, which I absolutely love when thinking about how I want to plan out and structure my days. We as humans often overestimate what we can do in one day, but we underestimate what we can do in 1 year. So instead of focusing on trying to make that leap and bound happen, that marathon happen in the time frame of a sprint, dispersing your energy properly so that every single day you have room to get just 1% better in whatever aspect of your life it is that you would like to improve in. And this can be varied. You don't have to make it linear all in one direction. You can go, 1% better in this area, and the next day focus on this area of your life, and this day focus on that area of your life. There's no right or wrong way, but for this week, your encouragement is definitely to take those small incremental steps. Another message that comes with this card is the worthiness that you have to share what you have learned. Especially if imposter syndrome is or has been a challenging thing for you in the past, that may be coming up for you this week. If it does, acknowledge it and say thank you for the opportunity, thank you for the challenge, for me to step forward and share the things that have value. If you're continually progressing and getting 1% better every day, odds are you've learned something that puts you at least a little bit ahead of where you were, 6 months ago or a year ago. And that knowledge, even if it just feels like the smallest nugget or the simplest thing for you, that has value. And in sharing that, you enable someone else to basically step into their 1% better. So my dear Leos, just know that you are 100% worthy of sharing what it is that you have already learned, even if you feel like you learned it very recently. There is a lot of space for you right now and right here to open up to the world about the lessons that it's teaching you. And if you feel like I'm not getting there quickly enough, I'm not doing this fast enough, this isn't good enough, there's this level of not enoughness that is corroding your thoughts, just know that every single person in this life, the general pattern that humans go through when we're learning things is you learn something, you take a step. You learn something else, you take another step. You learn something else, you take another step. And it's a continuation of that process. So if you feel like, oh, I haven't made it to the finish line, or I feel like I haven't taken enough steps to share anything that someone else is gonna learn, we are all in this journey together. So if you keep putting one foot in front of the other continually, day after day, you are learning things that other people are still needing to learn. So if you have to share it like you're speaking to yourself from 1 year ago, a month ago, even a day ago, by all means, please go ahead and just do that. But your truth right now is that whatever it is that you have to share, if you are feeling called to share it, even if you're having self-doubt, etc., there's a lot of value in sharing it, and you are being encouraged to do so this week, my dear Leos. And you're a Leo, so, you know, some part of you is going to love that. Okay, my Virgos, Virgo Sun, Moon, and Rising, I pulled for you in reverse the card that acknowledges the importance of being in balance. So, if you notice, we've got some scales there, very Libra-esque energy. Being pulled in reverse, this card acknowledges a level of focusing too much on one thing, possibly a little bit of perfectionism, and if you have Virgo energy in your chart, then you probably are not a stranger to that. But there's probably going to be an immense value for you in this week of learning how to divide out your attention and to see the bigger picture of things. Because right now, again, being pulled in reverse, it's possible and honestly kind of likely that you may not be seeing the big picture. Maybe you're focusing way too much on one detail and you're missing everything else, or you're forgetting to address other pieces of your life and ignoring the responsibilities that you dislike, or the people that you don't like, or the things that have kind of been stacking up on your plate that you're like, I just don't want to deal with that. In order to create a little bit of balance for yourself this week, my dear Virgos, it might benefit you to understanding how can I level out the playing field here. Also, if it feels like there's something that has been consuming your attention, not in a good way, please remember that it's okay to not strive for absolute perfection in every single thing that you do. Of course, the energy of refinement is important. You're a Virgo, you know this. But the energy of perfectionism, specifically compulsive perfectionism, can pull that level of refinement into a level of obsessive that ultimately ends up downplaying everything else that we might have going for us. So for this week, my dear Virgos, especially if you are feeling a little bit of excess or imbalance in some aspect of your life, you are being encouraged right now to create or find a level of long-term success by blending your strengths with your productivity as well as a level of stillness. The concept of imbalance, yin and yang, light and dark, as high as things go is also the equivalent to as low as they may need to go. And if you are constantly working and going and working and going and trying to perfect one thing and focusing on it and not stopping to focus on anything else, eventually any progress made in those other categories may begin to dwindle away until you address them. So right now, Virgos, really focus on trying to find a stable level of balance across the board in your life for the things that are important to you. Speaking of balance, moving on to Libra. Oh, my lovely Libras, Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. I love the card that I pulled for you this week because your card is all about rising up. This is 110% fucking Scorpio Phoenix energy right now. This card is all about rebirth, second chances, new opportunities, and giving yourself permission to pursue your bigger / biggest goals. If you pay attention to the card, you will see some wings here, and again, I like to see this as the wings of a phoenix. So rising up from the ashes, this opportunity to say, okay, I did this and maybe I crashed and burned, or maybe this didn't go so well, or maybe this quote unquote failed in my mind, and I've sat and I've grieved that process or learned from it, and now I'm ready to take what I have learned and have a do-over. This week for you, Libras, is a phenomenal chance to identify what things you have worked through in the past, especially if it feels like things are coming up again. Maybe some old shadows, some old situations, maybe some exes, past relationships, old bosses, something of the past, or a new situation that's maybe reminding you of the past, whether it's a person, place, a thing, a feeling, an emotion, something that it bears a level of resemblance to what you've experienced in the past, but now you have the opportunity to approach it completely differently. And my loving kind advice for you based off of this card is, if you approached it in a certain way in the past and it didn't work, perhaps your opportunity now is to approach it from a different way that maybe will work out in the way that you'd like for it to. There's also an element, whenever this card is pulled, of, I don't want to say possible self-doubt, but like this potential feeling of like unworthiness, or saying like, oh, why me? Like why do I deserve to step forward? Or I have a feeling that maybe there's an opportunity for you to really shine, whether it's in a work setting, maybe there's a possible promotion that you can get that you didn't get previously, or there's a new product that your company is going to release and the last one didn't go so well. I have a feeling that there's some aspect of you that maybe feels like it was stepped on a bit, and so maybe there's this approach that you're having to this situation which may feel oddly similar to one that you've experienced in the past. It's saying, I don't know if I deserve for this to be as good as it can be. Or if you're saying things like, well, I messed up before and I don't deserve for this to go well. There's this element of you saying like, why me? Almost with this tone of like, maybe I don't deserve it, I don't know. And the answer to that question is, why not? Why not you? Like, it's your turn. It's your turn to rise right now. That's what this card symbolizes. It's your turn. It's everyone, we get different opportunities at different times. Right now you have been handed one on a silver platter, whether or not you can see it. It's your turn to step up and say, I'm going to take this. And if it hasn't been presented to you already, I have a feeling that maybe this week something of that sort will come up. And when it does, take it with a level of gratitude and saying, I have the opportunity to completely rehash and re-experience this. A piece of advice that someone gave to me recently that has been very meaningful is that your past does not equal your future. So if you feel like there are certain parallels or things that you're seeing right now, just know that they're coming up most likely because you have worked through them in the past and you have learned things from them, and this is your opportunity to show what you have learned. So my dear wonderful Libras, take advantage of this energy. This is such a beautiful and transformative energy, and if you are having any struggles with how to do that, please feel free to reach out, because right now there is so much power being handed to you and you fully deserve it and you are ready to take it. God, I love that card. All right. Moving on into Scorpios. My lovely Scorpios, I pulled for you the card of success in transformation. Of all the cards in this deck, this has got to be one of the most Scorpio-esque ones, except for maybe the last one that I pulled for Libra. Success in transformation is the acknowledgement of one door closes, another one opens. And there, in fact, are a lot of doors, and they're constantly being closed and opened. And if you are feeling like you are just looking for the final door or you're looking for the final answer, you are being challenged, especially this week, to tap into the energy of continuous improvement. Scorpio is one of my favorite signs because a lot of it has to do with going into the depths of ourselves or our lives to create change. Turn your darkest shadow into your brightest light. Speaking of shadow, on the shadow side, when this card is pulled, it's definitely possible that there's something that you're stuck in, specifically if you're like stuck in the past and you're stuck in this old way of doing something, or maybe a previous relationship that didn't work out, a previous job, something didn't quite go according to plan, and your energy is sort of like stuck in it. Maybe you need closure that you didn't get, or you're still trying to understand like, how does this help me move forward? And again, the message for you for this week, when one door closes, another door opens, so you are being given and shown the things that you need to have and to see in order to create closure, and closure in a positive way. This card is an emblem of positive closure. So if you're feeling doubtful or stressed or like things may be really tough, it's possible that you're grieving something, grieving a past chapter in your life this week. And if that is the case, this card again is the encouragement that positive closure is on its way to you. And if you're in a state of saying, oh, well, I wasn't perfect, I could have done this differently, I wish I was perfect, because if I was, and this wouldn't have happened, blah, 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 you're being encouraged to refrain from that style of thinking. Continually ruminating on the things that maybe didn't work and not understanding that those were lessons that are gonna help to move you forward. And so these new opportunities that are coming your way, you needed that shit. Like whatever it was that happened, that needed to happen for you to be able to embrace and work with the things that are now on their way to you. So just know you are allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to make mistakes along the way. You don't have to be perfect the whole road. And if you're in a situation where maybe something still is not working out and you're beginning to acknowledge that you're in a cycle where it just doesn't seem like it's going to, and you're starting to hit the point where you realize like, I just don't want to keep trying. I don't see how this serves me. I feel like I've learned what it is that I need to learn. There's a very positive message here of saying that it is never too late to start something new. So if there's something that you've been wanting to start, wanting to try, wanting to move into, it is not too late in your life to consider that possibility and or to just dive right on into it. So finding success in this transformative phase and knowing that it is just a chapter of transition and it is not the rest of your whole life. It is not the rest of your whole experience. Again, your past does not equal your future. Your present doesn't necessarily equal your future if you are willing to learn from the things along the way. So Scorpios, hang tight in there. I am sending my love to you. If you need any support, please feel free to reach out, and be kind with yourself and know that you are in the midst of a revolving door cycle, and just because something is closing doesn't mean it's over. It just means it's making room for something else to open up for you. Moving on to Sagittarius. My Sagittarians, if you have Sagittarius in your chart, whether it is your sun, moon, or rising, I pulled for you the card of Raw Intention. This card is very much about your raw, natural power. If you are tapped into astrology or familiar with it all, I kind of feel like I get a lot of Mars. I get like a very big Mars vibe from this. Not only the color, but like everything about this energy is very primal. And this week you are being encouraged to unleash a level of that raw power. Of course, please do so in a safe and structured way, but this week there's definitely going to be opportunities where that can come forward. Raw power and energy, of course, can have negative iterations, especially in the form of anger outbursts, but it can also have powerfully positive iterations, and it's up to you what you want to do with that. If there are areas in your life where you are feeling particularly disempowered and you feel like maybe you're carrying the narrative of the victim and you want to shift that perspective, you probably are going to have some opportunities to do that this week. And if you need support in that, hit your girl up. Ultimately though, your experience of your reality is your own. No one can tell you how to react to something. Two different people from two very different walks of life can experience the exact same thing and have a completely different interpretation and a completely different experience of it. So knowing that you can derive a sense of power from that, a sense of power from your own experience, and also knowing that this week it's going to be important for you to tap into your power, I would highly encourage you to do whatever it is that you have to do to begin harnessing that natural intuitive power for yourself. If that means journaling, awesome. If that means going to fucking pole dance class or a burlesque class, great, do that. If it means nourishing your body in a certain way, training in a certain style or with certain types of people, whatever it is that makes you wake up and feel the most raw sense of power, that's going to be your encouragement to focus on for this week. There's also an encouragement with this card to allow a level of spontaneity for yourself this week. If you are noticing that certain whims or desires or impulses are coming up, I'm not necessarily saying that you should follow every single one, but be willing to be curious about it. Be willing to explore, where is this coming from? Sometimes impulses can come from a state of fear or a state of self-protection. And if that's the case, just again, acknowledging where it's coming from and what it's rooted in versus something that's actually like very powerfully important for you. And if you're struggling to tap into what those things might be, I would encourage you to journal. What are the things that make me feel the most powerful? What are the things that make me the most passionate? And passionate doesn't necessarily have to be in a comfortable way. There are plenty of things out there that make me passionate on an uncomfortable level, and just being willing to explore those and why they're there can help you to learn how to harness that power that comes through. Like if something gets you just fucking mad, if it really pisses you off, being willing to just go there and to ask questions about it and to understand, what is this energy that's here? Oh, this is anger. Great. Why am I angry about this? And being willing to channel whatever that powerful emotion, energy, etc. is into the things that you are doing. That process, that alchemical process, is probably going to be very beneficial for you. So my dear Sagittarians, you are an explorer by heart. So this week I would encourage you to be willing to look at and explore those deeper, raw emotions. All right, my dear Capricorns, I pulled for you the card that encourages you to celebrate some things. Celebrate your wins, celebrate your victories. This card comes with a message to fill your cup with sacred giggles. Not gonna lie, this is not my favorite way to phrase it, but I didn't write the deck. This card, however, whenever it comes up, is an acknowledgement of a level of closure and celebration. You have completed a chapter. This is the end of a cycle of some kind. There was a job well done. This might have been a work achievement. This might have been a personal life goal. This could be anything from really, really small to really, really large. Whatever it is, anywhere on the spectrum, you are being called to celebrate that this week. Even if you're like, I don't know what the hell this is about. Like, there's nothing for me to celebrate. Look at how far you've come. What have you achieved in the last weeks, months, years? We're coming close to the end of a new year, so maybe a little bit of time reflecting what it is you've actually been able to achieve in this last year and being proud of yourself and your work and your accomplishments. I'm a Capricorn sun. I totally get this. We like to work hard. We like to keep going. We like to bang, 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 keep moving forward. But sometimes we can get lost in the midst of putting our head down, grinding, getting the work done. And right now, this week is an most opportune time for you to take a step back and celebrate the wins you've already won. This card can also be an implication of travel plans. Maybe some travel is coming up for you, or some opportunities to travel in the future have. And if not, just in general, this is very much an options opening up type of a card. You did something, you completed it successfully, congratulations. As a result of your hard work, you have a bunch of options, and maybe a bunch of options is stressful for you, but hey, this is the beautiful result of all the hard work that you've done. You have given yourself a level of freedom to go in this direction, that direction, that direction, or that direction, and those opportunities are magnificent. And in this chapter, in this phase, if you will, it is likely that other people are probably gonna notice too. Like, this card is free. I mean, this whole reading is for you. Like, this reading is for you to have inner work done with yourself. But it is likely, as a result of this coming up, that other people may notice the successes that you've had and they may want to celebrate with you. Be willing to accept that love and that celebration from other people. Like, if someone wants to say, hey, good job, you don't need to be like, oh, thanks, I mean, this was bad. Like, just take it in and accept it. Right now, that I honestly feel like, knowing what I know about Capricorns, being one myself, there is so much value in saying, I put in so much hard work, and this is the place where I got to. And if other people want to celebrate me, I deserve to receive that, because sometimes people just like to say, like, a job well done when a job is well done. It's not because they're trying to provoke anything in you. It's not because they're trying to make you feel good about yourself. It's because some other people, it's not just us, some people value hard work. They see what you've put in and they want to acknowledge that for you. And you, my friend, may want to also be acknowledging that for yourself, and that is your encouragement for the week. So Capricorns, allow yourself to laugh and to feel that, like, giddy sense of like, haha, like, I did it. Like, allow yourself that this week. Allow yourself that this week. Let me know how it feels. Let it bubble over. It's infectious. Probably, honestly, in the long run, it's gonna give you more fuel for your fire and more fuel to continue working on those things or on other things in the future, because you realize the payoff of the hard work is not just the feeling of doing hard work. The payoff is so much greater than that. As a result of whatever chapter it is that you are closing right now and whatever chapter it is that you are moving into, you have the opportunity to celebrate life and living, and that is fucking beautiful. So Capricorns, thank you for sharing your energy with me. And we're gonna move on to Aquarius. For anyone who has an Aquarius sun, moon, or rising, your encouragement for this week is to cozy up with risk. Get willing to get risky. The message, and I will say this verbatim from what it says in the book, is the fearless pursuit of your dreams. Fearless. This is not a time to be coy and shy and conservative and safe. No, there's a time for that, for sure. But right now, Aquarians, this is your time to say, oh, that seems a little risky. I can do it. Or, oh, I've always wanted to do this thing, but I've kind of always been scared and I don't know if I want to do it. Yes, you do. And the fact that you do is very important. And of course, doing anything that's outside of our comfort zone is gonna come with a level of fear, because there is risk. There is anytime you do anything that is outside your comfort zone, if you feel fear or discomfort, it's probably because there's a level of risk involved. And I'm not saying go do everything that's as risky as possible. I don't think that that would be sound advice or balanced advice. That being said, being able to calm the monkey mind and identify, okay, if there is risk involved, of course, but logically, I can also see ways in which this could really work out well for myself, for my family, for my company. Like, if you can manage and take a calculated risk, as opposed to giving into fear and just saying, oh, this is never gonna work, that's not gonna work, I'm not even gonna try, you probably should consider the former this week. Also, a piece of advice that I love that comes with this card is to bless fear. I posted a video on my Instagram about a year back about the ways that I work with fear, and the first thing that I do when I experience fear is to acknowledge that it's there, and then to say thank you. Like, thank the fear for being there, because that emotional response, that emotional experience, that relationship to whatever it is that you are fearing is one where there's an aspect of you that wants to keep you safe, and that deserves to be thanked. That's like someone who has, you know, loving mom energy and is like, hey, make sure you bring a sweater or pack snacks or whatever it is. And you're like, oh my God, get off my ass. But also like, thank you for caring, you know? Or maybe you don't react that way, I don't know. But this emotion of fear is not that different in that it is there to protect you. If the only thing that's stopping you is the emotion of fear, getting comfortable with the fact that that fear exists and saying like, okay, I'm gonna allow myself to feel just a little bit more uncomfortable. And you don't have to go, you know, balls to the wall. You don't have to do like the hardest thing ever. One option is to say like, can I be 5% more scared? Small incremental shifts of slowly accepting a little bit more risk, a little bit more fear into your space, into what you're doing in a calculated and methodical way. It's probably not going to kill you. So my Aquarians, if you would like to move ahead this week in any way, shape, or form, I would definitely encourage you to work on calming the monkey mind, calming that voice inside your head that says everything's gonna fail, I'm gonna fail, this is gonna go terribly, blah, 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 and allowing yourself to just accept this emotion is part of the experience. Anyone trying something completely new, provided that they're not a complete psychopath, there is going to be some level of fear that they will experience, and that is normal and that is okay. It doesn't mean don't do it. Fear doesn't mean don't do this. Fear doesn't mean I shouldn't do this. Fear just means, wow, I'm afraid to do this. And you can do with that and your logical mind and your intuition, whatever you will. But my dear Aquarians, getting comfortable with the feeling of risk, whether or not you're taking them, is going to be very helpful for you this week. So let me know how that goes. If you need any support, of course, you're invited to reach out. And with that being said, I will move into my final card, which is for Pisces. My lovely Pisces, I pulled for you in reverse the card that has a lot to do with hustle. This one specifically says the spark of hustle. Now, in reverse, this card can acknowledge a level of workaholic tendencies, manifesting busyness, keeping yourself always engaged, always doing something, always have something planned, blah, 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 go, 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 go. Or creating an environment in your life where you constantly have to do that, whether you're agreeing to things, taking on more projects than you need, taking on more responsibilities than you need. There's something in the way of working super hard and not allowing yourself to just be, in a way that actually might get in the way of the success that it is you are working for. Even if it is on an emotional level, like maybe I'm definitely not saying you shouldn't go to therapy because therapy is phenomenal, but maybe like if you're in a therapy session, you're saying, oh, I have all this trauma, I have all these things that I need to work and I need to change and I have to heal and I have to be fully healed in order to move forward in my life. And you're like working so hard to have emotional closure, to have an emotional experience or a release or whatever it is, that it's potentially getting in the way of your ability to actually experience what it is that you are wanting to experience. And it's possible that you're working for something that you really, really believe in, and that's amazing. It might benefit you to just take a step back, and I'm not saying stop, just take a step back and identify, are there areas in my life where I have created too much work for myself in this regard? Maybe this is a really great opportunity for you to delegate or to hire some more people to help out with the duties and responsibilities that you have basically assigned to yourself. Also, my dear Pisceans, something to consider, the energy of Pisces can, at its best, it's very adaptable. At its worst, it can be a little bit more of a conformist. So if you're in a working environment where everyone is working in a certain way, doing things in a certain way, especially, and I don't say this to be sexist, I say this just from a very honest place, the masculine energy, not even looking at genders, just in general, masculine energy tends to be very go, 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 do, like stable, consistent, stable, productive output. That's masculine energy. And if you look at the way that men are structured biologically, like they're designed for that level of consistent output. And that doesn't mean that's not something that women are capable of. And it doesn't mean that men aren't capable of other ways of being. That's just biologically kind of what, where their strengths lie. And I think that's beautiful. Now with women, especially if you're listening to this and you are a woman, our bodies are designed differently. We operate differently. The renewal cycle for a man takes 24 hours and for a woman takes about 28 days. That is such a big discrepancy between how long it takes for us to work through a cycle. And so as a result, oftentimes women, especially if you're not on any kind of like hormonal birth control, etc., you may notice that certain weeks of the month, you have more energy than others, more clarity, better sleep, more productivity, and other weeks you really just need to take a step back. You feel more artistic, you feel more reclusive, more emotional. Your strengths are not going to be necessarily bang, bang, bang all the time. Like sometimes you're gonna have a lot more of one type of energy, sometimes you have a lot more of another type. And that's such a beautiful gift, but sometimes, again, being a Pisces, if you are naturally inclined for this one way of being and you're around a bunch of people who operate in a different way, it can be very easy to lose sight of where you end, where they begin, what actually works for you versus what works for them. And you can get lost in this culture that of course has its benefits, but maybe it doesn't actually serve the way that works best for you. So my dear Pisces, I would highly encourage you to take a step back this week and to acknowledge what way works for you. And again, this doesn't have to be about genders, like masculine energy versus feminine energy. Some men work better in a feminine structure, some women work better within a masculine structure. That's up for you to decide. But given, again, that this was pulled in reverse, it's quite likely and quite possible that you are maybe conforming to a way of working that doesn't necessarily serve you in the long-term sustainable future. So really just get honest with yourself about what that looks like, what you need. If you need to advocate for yourself, if you need support in that, of course, please let me know. And acknowledging that it doesn't have to all be done in one day for it to get done eventually. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate having you here. Again, I do these readings every single week free of charge. So please make sure that you tap the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. I work as a personal coach predominantly for women who are in leadership roles or executive settings. So if you are trying to find a little bit more work-life balance, or if you know someone who would really benefit from that, please make sure that you share this with them. And of course, if there's any way that I can support you along your journey, please let me know. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I wish you a most marvelous week, and I will see you guys on the next one. Cheers.